Hi guys. Well, it's been a little while since our last session, and I do apologize for such a long hiatus, but I'm back now, and I'm looking forward to continuing this series on Node development. The next two sessions will be a little different from the first two. We've got a bit of a taste for Node already in the previous sessions, and now I want to go off on a bit of a tangent and dive into some of the infrastructure that's grown up around Node to help make developing in it so much easier. Over the course of the next two sessions, we'll be taking a look at two tools that will help you manage your Node development environment and make you more productive. First on our list is the Node Version Manager, or NVM as it's usually referred to. And that's the tool that we'll be covering in today's session. In the interim since our last session, Node has advanced from release 0.4.5 to 0.6.15. Considering the speed at which Node is advancing, it's vital that we have a tool that allows us to create sandbox development environments that are protected from all the volatility in the Node world. And NVM is that tool. Couple it with NPM, which we'll be discussing in our next session, and you can create virtual environments around both specific versions of Node and any third-party libraries that you'll be using in your projects. If you're familiar at all with virtual env for Python, you'll have some idea of what the combination of these two pieces of software has to offer. So apologies made, and summary out of the way, let's get right down to business. The installation of NVM is very simple. Just go to its GitHub page in your browser. You can find it by simply Googling for NVM, and more than likely it'll be one of the first results, if not the very first result. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. And here it is, the very first one that comes up. Click on that. And once you're on the GitHub page, you just need to scroll down a little bit, and you actually see a line down here that will allow you to clone the repository. So you want to go ahead and copy that, and just pop it into your command line, assuming that you have Git installed on your computer. And now what this is going to do is just download the entire NVM directory. It's basically going to copy it to your local home directory under the name NVM. Now, I typically like to have these types of folders hidden, so I'm just going to go ahead and move that now from NVM to .nvm. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Now you just need to make sure that the actual main nvm.sh shell script is sourced every time you open a new session in your terminal. So you do that by adding a little line of code to your startup script, whether that's your .bashrc file or .zshrc file, depending on what shell you run. I'm going to go ahead and show you how it's done in my file under bash. I've already got that in here now. So very simple, just I create a new nvm underscore home variable, which I point to .nvm that we just created. And then I basically just check to make sure that the nvm.sh file exists before actually sourcing it. So if you go ahead and copy that into your bashrc file, then that will be, then every time you start up a new session, it will just go ahead and run the actual nvm.sh script. And what that'll do is create a whole slew of NVM functions and place them in your current session. So let's go ahead and source that now so we can take a look and see what it gives us. So now if I type NVM and hit return, you'll actually see a whole list of all the different commands that you can actually issue to NVM. So we'll start off just by saying NVM ls and see what pops up. Nothing too interesting. We basically get a n/a, which is not available, and current colon with nothing after it. And what this is telling us is that we don't currently have any copies of Node installed on our system. And we don't have a current one that we're actually running right now. So we want to go ahead and install a version of Node on our system using NVM. And you do that by simply typing NVM install. And we want to give the latest version, which I said was 0.6.15. One thing you need to remember is that you always have to type the letter V in front of your version number. So V 0.6.15 and hit return. And that should go ahead and start downloading the latest version of Node and installing it into the .nvm directory. So this is going to take a little while, so I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to the very end. And it's a good time to pause this video right now. And as soon as you're done installing this version of Node, just unpause and I'll be waiting for you when you come back. Okay, so now we've got a version of Node installed in our system, and let me just clean up my terminal so we can get started playing around with it a bit. Let's start off by taking another look at the nvm ls command. Notice that this time it's listing our newly installed version of Node. It also lists this version as the current version that we are using. You can confirm this by typing Node-v and make sure that the version number rather than an error message pops up. What would happen though if we open another terminal session? Would our system still default to the most recently installed version of Node or something else? Let's go ahead and try it out now and see what happens. So I'll open up a new session and I'm going to go ahead and type in Node-v. Notice this time we actually get an error message telling us that the node command cannot be found. So how do we actually select a node version to use as our current version? Well, the way you do that is through the nvm use command. So let's go ahead and type that in now. Type in nvm use and then a version number. We'll do 0.6.15 since that's the only one we have installed. And return. And it tells us that you're now using Node version 0.6.15. And you can confirm this by typing in Node-v and then also nvm ls again. And we'll see that the current version is selected as version 0.6.15. So nvm use is the command we use to switch between all the different versions of Node that we've installed. But how do we select one version to always be our default current version? Well, you do that through the alias command. nvm's alias command allows us to set up several different names for versions we use often, as a way of more easily identifying them. If we run nvm help, then we can see just down here that the way that we create a new alias is by typing nvm alias, followed by the name, and then followed by the version number that we want to associate with that name. So for example, if we executed the command nvm alias latest 0.6.15, then from that moment on we could refer to version 0.6.15 as simply latest. So the next time we wanted to use that version, we could just type nvm use latest, and voila! Much easier than typing in the version number, and it allows us to label specific versions according to which projects we're using them for. One alias in particular, though, that is treated specially by nvm is the default alias. nvm will automatically load the version of Node, alias to default, as the current version whenever a new shell session is created. So let's go ahead and set our default version now by typing nvm alias default 0.6.15. Now if we start a new shell session and type Node-v, we can see that the latest version has already been selected for us, and typing nvm ls will confirm that for us. Notice also that underneath the current version of Node is a list of all of our aliases that we've defined. Since we've aliased the latest version of Node to default, we probably don't actually need another alias for it. So let's go ahead and get rid of the latest alias now by just typing in nvm unalias latest. And then type in nvm ls just to confirm that it's been removed. There's one more thing I want to cover before we finish up today, and that's an option that was recently added to nvm that supports tab completion in bash. Adding this feature is extremely simple. It's just a matter of sourcing another file upon starting a new shell session, like we did before for the installation of nvm. So let me go ahead and clear out all these windows and open up a new terminal window, and let's go ahead and open up our .bashrc file again. And if you scroll down to where we added the few lines to source nvm last time, you'll notice right below that, I've already got this added in, you want to go ahead and add pretty much the exact same thing as before, except this time we'll be checking for the existence of a file called bash_completion, which will be in the nvm home directory, and if it's there, we'll go ahead and source it. So go ahead and save that, and let's exit back out to our command line. Let's go ahead and give it a try. First we need to source our bashrc file just to make sure that the tab completion has been added to our current session. And then we can give it a try by typing in nvm h and then follow that up with a tab, and you should actually see the word help pop up all of a sudden if tab completion was added properly. So let's try it again, this time with the version number. So we'll type nvm use the letter V and hit tab again, and hopefully it'll fill out version 0.6.15, assuming that you haven't installed any more versions. And that's pretty much it for tab completion. Not an absolute must, but still a feature that makes using NVM much nicer all around. Well, that pretty much wraps up everything for today's episode. That should be just about enough to get you started with NVM. The app is fairly simple to understand, and you should be able to pick up the rest by just looking at the help output from NVM help. As I mentioned quickly at the beginning of this session, we'll be covering NPM in our next episode. NPM is the package manager for Node and complements NVM quite nicely. The combination of the two make it extremely easy to create completely sandbox development environments that you can switch between with just a few commands. We'll also install our very first Node package and put it to use helping us out with our Node development. So please come back again and join me for part 2 of this look at some of the tools that you'll find indispensable in your Node development. I'll see you then.